Sometimes silence speaks louder than words, and when it finally breaks, the sound can stir emotions you thought were settled. The moment of contact after distance is never just about a message or a call. It's a test of your self-control, your self-worth, and the boundaries you've built. How you respond will define not only the next chapter, but also the strength of your own spirit. When silence finally breaks, the temptation to respond instantly can feel overwhelming. The emotions that silence carries, confusion, anticipation, even a quiet ache, suddenly rush to the surface the moment contact is made. It is in this exact moment that the greatest test of your strength begins. Staying composed is not just about holding back words, it is about mastering the waves that rise inside you. A message, a call, or even the smallest sign of attention can ignite memories, stir old feelings, and shake the calm you worked so hard to build. But composure means standing firmly in the present instead of being dragged back into the past. It means refusing to let emotions dictate your next move. There is a kind of power in stillness, a power that whispers rather than shouts. When you pause before reacting, you give yourself the space to breathe, to observe, and to decide with clarity. A hasty reply might feel satisfying in the moment, but often it is nothing more than a reaction born out of impulse. That impulse can open doors you no longer wish to walk through, or it can hand over control you did not intend to give away. By staying composed, you show that you are not controlled by outside actions, but instead by the strength of your own will. Composure is also a mirror of self-respect. It says without words that your peace cannot be shaken by a sudden gesture after silence. It communicates that your value is not tied to whether someone chooses to appear or disappear. Even in silence, you existed whole, and in this moment of contact, you still remain whole. When you stay calm, you remind yourself and the other person that you are steady, not swayed by unpredictable tides. That steadiness is magnetic. It draws respect, and it sets the tone for any future exchange. The truth is, silence already tested you. It showed you how much strength you hold when you are left without answers. If you could endure the quiet, you can certainly endure the sound that follows. The challenge is not whether you can respond. The challenge is how you carry yourself in the response. Words can be light, measured, and graceful, but the energy behind them must be steady. Staying composed ensures that your response is chosen, not forced. It comes from thought, not from urgency. Think of it as standing at the center of a storm. Around you, emotions may swirl, questions, hopes, doubts, but at the core, there is calm. That calm is your power. When you respond from it, you carry a different kind of weight, a quiet authority that cannot be mistaken. To stay composed is to reclaim control, to ensure that you are leading the moment rather than being led by it. And in that stillness, you find your true strength. When contact arrives after silence, the first thought that often comes is why now? What shifted in the space between then and this moment? Assessing intentions requires you to slow down and look beneath the surface rather than being swept away by the relief of hearing something again. Every message carries a story, and every attempt to reconnect carries a motive. Sometimes it is genuine care, sometimes it is curiosity, sometimes it is convenience, and sometimes it is simply a search for reassurance. The key is to step back and observe without judgment, allowing yourself to see patterns rather than getting trapped in feelings. To assess intentions, pay attention to the details that most people overlook. The timing, the tone, the effort, the words chosen. Each is a clue. Is the message vague or is it direct? Is it thoughtful or is it careless? Does it acknowledge the silence or does it brush past it as if nothing happened? These are not just words, they are signals. When you train yourself to read between the lines, you begin to recognize whether the outreach is rooted in sincerity or whether it is simply a passing impulse. This stage is less about what is being said and more about why it is being said. Ask yourself, what role do you play in this moment? Is it about filling a void, about seeking validation, or about rebuilding something meaningful? When someone reappears, it is rarely without reason. Even silence has a motive, and the end of silence is no different. Your strength lies in observing, not in assuming. By observing, you create clarity. By assuming, you create stories that may never be true. It is important to understand that intention reveals itself, not only in words but also in consistency. A single message may carry one tone, but the follow-up, or lack of it, will tell you far more than the first contact ever could. Patience is your ally. Give time the chance to expose the truth. If the intention is shallow, it will fade quickly. If it is genuine, it will show itself in effort, in presence, and in clarity. Assessing intentions also requires honesty with yourself. What do you hope the contact means? What do you fear it might mean? Sometimes our own desires can blur perception, making us interpret gestures through the lens of what we wish rather than what is real. By facing your own hopes and fears, you strip away illusion and allow yourself to see the message for what it truly is. This honesty shields you from being pulled into cycles that drain your energy. When you take the time to observe with calm detachment, you gain the power to respond with wisdom. Not every reappearance deserves your full attention, and not every word spoken deserves weight. By assessing intentions carefully, you protect yourself from empty patterns while making space for what is real. Silence broke for a reason, but only by looking deeper will you know whether that reason deserves a place in your life. When silence ends and a message arrives, the most important reminder is that your energy is sacred. It is the foundation of your peace, your clarity, and your self-worth. To protect it means to respond with awareness instead of being carried away by emotion. After all, silence often leaves marks, and the return of contact can stir both hope and hurt. If you are not careful, one reply can drain what you have worked hard to rebuild. Protecting your energy is about choosing what deserves access to your inner world and what does not. Energy is not just about time or effort. It is the emotional space you hold. Every word you give, every thought you entertain, every reply you craft costs you energy. If the contact is shallow, inconsistent, or careless, then pouring your strength into it leaves you empty. But when you hold your energy close, you prevent yourself from being pulled back into cycles that only repeat old wounds. Protecting yourself means recognizing that not every message requires a reply, and not every reappearance deserves a place in your heart. You must ask yourself, how does this outreach make me feel? Does it lift me or does it weigh me down? Does it give clarity or does it create confusion? The answers are important because your energy thrives in clarity, but withers in uncertainty. If the message makes you anxious, restless, or unsettled, protecting yourself may mean stepping back instead of stepping in. Sometimes silence deserves silence in return, not as a punishment, but as a form of preservation. There is a quiet strength in protecting your energy that others can feel. When you respond from a centered place, you show that your world does not revolve around a sudden appearance. You show that your peace is not negotiable and your worth is not conditional. This makes you unshakable. People can sense when your energy is grounded, and that groundedness often commands more respect than any words you could say. Protecting your energy also means setting boundaries, both internal and external. Internally, you must decide what you will allow into your thoughts, what you will replay, and what you will let go of. Externally, you must decide what tone your response carries, how much access you give, and how much space you create. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They keep what nourishes you and block what drains you. By practicing this, you guard your inner strength while still remaining open to what is genuine. Remember that silence already proved your resilience. You endured the absence and learned how to stand without constant reassurance. Do not let a single message undo that growth. Protect your energy as if it were treasure, because it is. When you reply, let it come from calm strength, not from fear of losing someone or missing an opportunity. Your energy belongs to you alone, and the moment you protect it fiercely, you make it clear that your peace cannot be disturbed without your permission. When silence breaks and a message appears, the first instinct might be to let emotions take over. But this is the moment where boundaries become essential. Setting clear boundaries is not about shutting someone out. It is about showing the world the standards you live by and the respect you hold for yourself. Without boundaries, you risk being swept into patterns that repeat old pain. With them, you protect your peace and communicate without needing to explain who you are or what you deserve. Boundaries begin in the way you choose to respond. A message does not require paragraphs of history, apologies, or explanations. A short and steady reply says more about your self-respect than any attempt to justify your silence or your choices. When you answer with clarity and restraint, you set the tone. You are not someone who bends at the first sign of attention. Your words reflect balance. They show that while you are open to conversation, you are not abandoning the standards you created in the quiet. Boundaries are also about emotional distance. It is easy to pour feelings into a reply, especially when silence has built anticipation. But when you allow emotions to spill unchecked, you hand over the control of the moment. Instead, protect yourself by keeping the conversation light and intentional. Do not dive into deep explanations unless consistency and sincerity are shown over time. Boundaries mean pacing the connection, not rushing to rebuild what was once broken by distance. It is important to understand that clear boundaries are not coldness. They are clarity. They prevent misunderstandings and protect your heart. If someone reaches out casually after silence, your boundary might be to match their tone rather than giving more than they offered. If the contact feels inconsistent, your boundary might be to step back instead of investing deeply. Boundaries make sure your energy and time are directed toward what is real, not toward what is temporary. Think of boundaries as quiet lines drawn around your peace. They are not aggressive or demanding, but they are firm. They tell others, this is how I expect to be treated, and this is what I will not allow. People may test these lines, but the more consistent you are in honoring them, the more others learn how to approach you. In the absence of boundaries, others decide for you. With them, you decide for yourself. Silence itself may have been a boundary life created for you, showing you what you can endure without constant contact. Now, as the silence ends, the challenge is to uphold those same lessons. Your boundaries are not only for others, they are for you too. They remind you of the strength you discovered in solitude. And when you carry that strength into your reply, you show that you are no longer moved by fleeting gestures, but guided by steady self-respect. Boundaries give shape to your response, and in that shape lies the quiet power of someone who knows their worth. When silence is broken, the way you choose to respond can shape the entire tone of what follows. This is why keeping your reply short and neutral carries so much weight. Simplicity is not weakness, it is strength. A few calm words often speak louder than long explanations because they show control. When you respond in a measured way, you make it clear that your peace is not shaken, that you are not desperate for attention, and that your sense of worth does not depend on someone else's sudden reappearance. A short reply protects you from pouring out emotions too quickly. Silence may have built anticipation, but when you release all of that in one message, you risk giving away more of yourself than the situation deserves. Long responses often come from a place of seeking validation, hoping to be understood, or trying to close gaps that someone else created. But you do not need to fill the silence for anyone else. Your words are yours to give carefully. By choosing a brief response, you show that you are measured, thoughtful, and in control of your own story. Neutrality adds another layer of strength. It prevents you from attaching too much meaning to the first contact. Neutral words carry no blame, no desperation, no excess warmth. They simply acknowledge without over-investing. A neutral tone says, I see you, but I am steady. It allows you to keep the interaction grounded, giving you the space to observe whether this reappearance carries genuine intent or whether it is a fleeting moment. If it is genuine, consistency will prove it in time. If it is fleeting, your neutrality will protect you from unnecessary disappointment. A short and neutral reply also places responsibility where it belongs. If someone truly wants to reconnect, they will follow up, they will make the effort, and they will show consistency. By not giving in your first reply, You leave space for them to reveal their intentions. You are not carrying the weight of both sides. You are simply standing steady and allowing actions to speak louder than words. This approach also preserves your energy. When you keep your response measured, you avoid spiraling into overthinking or regret later. You do not have to wonder if you revealed too much, sounded too eager, or gave away your strength. A neutral reply leaves no room for misinterpretation, and it keeps the interaction balanced. It reminds both you and the other person that your self-worth does not rise or fall with one message. Silence already showed you how strong you could be without constant reassurance. Now, in the moment of response, that same strength continues through your choice of words. Short, calm, and neutral replies are a reflection of self-control. They protect your heart, they guard your peace, and they set the tone for everything that follows. In their simplicity lies power, and in their restraint lies the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly who they are. When contact arrives after silence, the decision of what comes next belongs entirely to you. The message itself is not the ending or the beginning. It is an opening, and how you step through it will shape the future. Deciding your next steps wisely means pausing to reflect on what this interaction truly means for you, not just in the moment, but in the larger picture of your life. It is easy to let emotions dictate the path, but wisdom asks you to look deeper. Is this a door you wish to walk through again? Or is it a moment that confirms closure? Every response you give is more than just words, it is direction. A reply can invite further contact, it can create space, or it can end a cycle. This is why clarity within yourself is essential before you decide what to do. Ask yourself, what do I truly want from this exchange? Do I want resolution, reconnection, or release? Without this inner clarity, it is easy to drift into someone else's rhythm instead of moving to your own. Sometimes the wisest next step is to open the door slightly and see what consistency follows. Words alone mean little if not supported by action, and time always reveals whether someone is serious or temporary. Giving space for proof allows you to protect yourself while still exploring what may come. Other times, the wisest step is to keep the door closed, recognizing that silence already showed you what you needed to know. Choosing not to continue is just as powerful as choosing to engage, because it affirms that your peace comes first. Deciding next steps also means refusing to act out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of missing out, or fear of losing someone can cloud judgment. But fear-driven choices rarely lead to peace. Wisdom comes from a place of strength, not desperation. When you act from strength, your next step aligns with your values and honors the growth you gain during the silence. You are not rushing to fill a void. You are choosing deliberately. It is important to remember that not every reappearance deserves a second chance. Some people return out of convenience, curiosity, or comfort, not because they bring genuine value to your life. This is why observing actions after the initial contact is crucial. If the effort is consistent, respectful, and clear, it may be worth exploring. If it is vague, irregular, or draining, the next step may be to walk away gracefully. Both choices require strength, and both are valid if they protect your well-being. At its core, deciding next steps wisely is about self-leadership. It is you choosing your path instead of allowing circumstances or someone else's timing to dictate it for you. Silence gave you space to grow stronger. Now the return of contact gives you the chance to use that strength. Whether you move forward, step back, or close the chapter entirely, the decision is yours alone. And in making it with wisdom, you prove to yourself that your life is guided not by chance, but by choice. When silence is broken, it can stir many emotions, but how you choose to respond is where your real strength is revealed. Staying composed, observing intentions, protecting your energy, setting boundaries, keeping your replies calm, and deciding your next steps with wisdom. All of these are not just strategies for a single moment, they are practices for life. They remind you that your worth does not rise or fall with someone's attention, and your peace is not dependent on whether silence exists or ends. The message that arrives after absence is not the measure of your value. It is simply a moment, and moments pass. What matters is the way you carry yourself through it. By holding on to your strength, choosing clarity over impulse, and honoring the lessons silence has already taught you, you remain in control of your story. Whether you open the door, leave it ajar, or close it completely, the power rests in your hands. And in that power lies the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth, protects their peace, and walks forward with unshakable grace.